If just intentions alone could affect those around you, would it be a blessing or would it be a curse? Well, this mother here wants to use those intentions to save her child from death's door, thanks to a curse she helped unleash several years ago. Let's see if we can share some positive vibes and avoid breaking ancient taboos in this film called Incantation. Let's go. Our story begins with the mother showing some home movie clips of her and her daughter. She explains how her own intentions, even in the form of wishing others well, can actually change the outcomes of others in life. This woman is Lee Ronan, who 6 years ago visited a religious group with her boyfriend Dom and his cousin Yuan, where they apparently violated an ancient taboo by entering a forbidden tunnel. Ronan never actually went inside herself, but watched a video recorded by the others who did, and ever since then she has been cursed with bringing misfortune to those closest to her. To show just how intense this curse truly is, Ronan plays a video from the dashcam of the family car, where they get into a terrible traffic collision, killing her mother in the process. Her father survived, but immediately afterwards wanders into traffic while repeating his own name, before getting flattened by a semi-truck. She next shows security tape footage from the police station where she attempted to turn in the camera that was used inside the tunnel. Followed shortly thereafter, it shows the officers all unaliving themselves. Yeah, clearly this footage is cursed and should never be watched by anyone. Sorry for that, guys. Now, Ronan isn't sharing all of this information for her own sake though, but for the sake of her daughter, who is now suffering because of this curse. She asks viewers to study a symbol, followed by repeating an incantation with her, which should send some positive blessing towards her daughter Dudu. If enough people do this, it just might save her life. Now that we know what this video is about, she shows us how events led up to this. Shortly after getting cursed and horrible tragedies were experienced by those close to her, Ronan gave birth to her daughter, but was unable to take care of her due to the trauma she had experienced up to this point. Makes sense. Now, in the present day, after years of therapy, she is going through the process to gain custody of Dudu and bring her home. She decides to make a video diary of this special occasion, which is the footage that is being played throughout the film. Ronan and her social worker go to pick up her daughter, who is being taken care of by her foster father Ming. Ming seems like a genuinely nice man who has taken an extra liking to Dodo due to her being the only foster child that calls him Dad. But all the same, he says his goodbyes to the little girl and Ronan takes her home. The mother and daughter are spending time together drawing and writing in a notebook when a crash is heard from the next room. She goes to check, instructing Dudu to wait there. While waiting, the girl starts to stare at the ceiling as if something's there. The crash in the room was a cockroach that apparently flew right through the window. Strange to say the least, but not necessarily a supernatural red flag. Suddenly, more and more paranormal phenomena start to happen. With the front door being open, the hallway lights turning off and on, and an elevator opening with nothing but a wail being heard. Ronan's motherly instincts kick in and she goes to check on Dodo, who thankfully is still sound asleep. But after getting distracted by another noise, Ronan looks back to see Dodo running out of the room. She later finds her repeating her own name on the balcony while walking in a trance-like state back to her bedroom. Once inside, the door slams on its own and the little girl is screaming. As Ronan tries to calm her down, the camera, which I guess is no longer following found footage rules, zooms in to show Dodo's drawing utensils make shape of ancient symbols revealed to us at the start of the film. Now this is absolutely a supernatural incident that shouldn't be ignored, right? Get that girl to an exorcist. Now the footage that is shown to us next is from 6 years ago. It depicts the day Ronan, her boyfriend Dom, and his cousin Yuan traveled up the mountainsides to the remote village of their ancestors. Their family here practiced an ancient religion and the two men were invited to attend a decennial ritual. The trio decided to take this opportunity to document the events for their YouTube channel, Strange Murmurs, where they act as ghostbusters of some sorts. They plan to disprove the superstitions of the Forbidden Tunnel, and well, we already know how that went, right? Back in the present day, at night, Dodo starts shouting from her bedroom, repeatedly telling something to get down. As Ronan enters the room, her daughter says that there is a faceless baddie on the ceiling that won't come down. The mom plays along and also tells the baddie to go away, before taking her child's advice and leading the baddie out by hand. I guess that will do it. Another flashback clip is inserted here, but this one takes place only 2 years ago before Ronan would have had custody. It shows Dodo playing hide and seek with the cameraman presumed to be Ming, her foster dad, when a pair of creepy arms reach out from the darkness to grab her. Now, I'm not sure why this incident, which is on film, was never brought to anyone's attention, especially the mother's. I also don't know how or why Ming was able to act like everything was normal with the girl after witnessing this incident on film. Now we know that this curse was plaguing Dodo long before her mother entered her life, which is interesting. Back in the past again, the trio are participating in the sacred ritual. They have to write their names down on spell tags while the granduncle waves a thurible around them. They hand him the slips, which are wrapped up with a young girl's hair and kept in a box, which is offered to their deity, known as the Mother Buddha. From now on, they are not to use their real names while at this village anymore. They shouldn't even think of them, they're told, as the names are offered up to this deity. They also must repeat this ritual every 10 years. Now, it is not mentioned what happens if they break these rules, but let's not take any chances here. Now, a young girl from the village, the same one who offered up her hair for the ritual, walks over to Ronan and touches her abdomen. As she does, the elderly woman informs her that the Mother Buddha likes the girl inside her tummy and her name must be offered as well in the future. Ronan and Dom are stunned that night as they had no clue about the pregnancy. Nevertheless, the trio of Ghostfacers still plan on visiting the Forbidden Tunnel, so they sneak out that night. Bad decision. While doing so though, they get discovered by the girl from before who offers to take them somewhere fun. Now that fun place is apparently only for her and Ronan, the others aren't allowed to enter. Inside this place are lots of little statues and other totems of spiritual significance. The little girl returns with a box of frogs. She hands Ronan a bunch of hair and instructs her to feed them, which she does. It's then also revealed that this girl is missing an ear as it was offered to the deity as a sacrifice. Big red flag right there. The statues suddenly turn around and stare at our characters, as menacingly as you would expect statues to stare. At the same time, we see that the other two guys were caught by the villagers and basically kicked out of the village. However, as we soon see, they have no intentions of leaving and eventually head to the Forbidden Tunnel anyway. Well, let's see how that goes. Meanwhile, in the present day, while celebrating the child's birthday, we see her hearing voices nobody else can. The voices apparently urge her to retrieve a knife in order to pry open a locked room. Inside this room, she finds the haunted video camera from before and starts watching it. This is why you don't leave kids unattended and you should really burn that tape already. Now, upon finding her daughter though, it is revealed that Dodo is now suffering from brain-induced paralysis, but is otherwise okay. It is probably the case that she suffers from that because of the curse of her mom. The next events show how a court ruling revoked custody from Ronan, blaming her for the paralysis. However that is possible, we don't know. However, Ronan can handle this decision and thus kidnaps her own daughter from the hospital. While police and social workers are chasing her, she comes across Ming, who decides to help them flee instead of snitching on them, showing that he has the child's best interest at heart, because he asked Dodo what she wanted. Just too bad he didn't know about Ronan's supposed curse, right? Can't know it all. Now we join up with the past trio again, as they arrive at the entrance to the Forbidden Tunnel. There they find a bunch of offerings, including the little girl from the village, now unconscious and wrapped in a blanket, including runes all over her body. Dom and Ronan want to take her to the hospital, but their friend just continues to document things. As they mention leaving, he gets annoyed and kicks the tunnel's entrance open. Suddenly, a baby's cry is heard from within. As the men hesitate, Ronan wants to enter, because it sounds like there could be more kids trapped inside who need rescuing. A fair take, but you go first. Now this is the perfect stopping point to review everything we have learned so far in the past and present and see if there was anything that could have been done different. Let's break this down chronologically. 6 years ago, when the trio first arrived at the mountain village, if we were in their same position, we should have respected the group's rules and immediately left if we were an outsider like Ronan. Not only could there be karmic consequences or supernatural curses if we believe in those sorts of things, but even more realistically, we shouldn't anger a group of religious people who may seek physical retribution, right? If we did stay though, we should definitely start believing in superstitions while inside the tent with the village girl, because statues shouldn't move on their own and frogs shouldn't be eating hair. But hey, maybe there is an explainable trick to the statue and the frogs were trained with weird eating habits, who knows? The next huge red flag to get away as far as possible from this village would be the fact that they cut off the little girl's ear as an offering. It is not okay to harm anyone, especially not in the 21st century for religious beliefs, and it's a kid as well, right? That's even more effed up. Likewise, once the girl is discovered to have been left as an offering at the tunnel, we should take her to the hospital immediately. Now, it would be terrible if there were more children trapped inside the tunnel as well, but that is a problem for the cops to solve, not a wannabe Scooby-Doo gang. We don't know just yet what happens inside the tunnel, but we did see that people have passed away mysteriously around Ronan since, and she feels pretty confident that she is cursed. If that is the case, in the present day, why would she want to take in her own daughter? That will only put her life in jeopardy, just as we see it in fact has throughout this film already. The only reason I can think of for this is Ronan must have been convinced that every bad thing that happened before was a natural coincidence, despite the fact that she has supernatural phenomenon on tape. And as we will see later, even more drastic examples of spiritual happenings, so we should accept that this curse seems to be very much real. We should have tried to lift the curse on ourselves through a priest or some other religious methods to make sure that everything is safe enough for us to have a 6-year-old around. And if too ignorant or selfish to care about those precautions, we should definitely get Dudu to a safer place once we experience the phenomenon firsthand in our own house, right? And that is if it's not already too late for the girl, as she seems to have possibly been possessed by something during this time. Now, sometime after the men have entered the tunnel, Yuan comes screaming and rushing out of it, completely ignoring our character as he runs into the darkness. Several clips next show us the villagers excavating Dom's body from the tunnel, with his face wrapped and coated in blood. The village girl appears to be okay now, at least, and attempts to comfort Ronan. She also tries to stop her from taking the camera, but is unsuccessful. She returns to the village to talk to Yuan, but he is simply running around shouting, "Don't ask." Doesn't look like he'll be sharing much. He eventually even attacks Ronan before having all of his teeth fall out. And if that wasn't enough already, she turns around and sees all of the villagers covered in runes, menacingly staring at her. She heads for the car to escape, and as she does, her mad friend jumps off a roof still shouting, "Don't ask." These were his final words. We cut back to the present, where a new trio is traveling up the mountain to visit that same temple. However, this time, supernatural forces prevent them from reaching their destination. The road they're on seems to loop infinitely. Their car also faces some issues as something bangs on the roof and the radio malfunctions. They start to recite incantations to protect them and then opt to go for plan B, which is taking the cursed camera and the kids to an exorcist. Finally. Now, the ritual is completed fairly quickly, but the instructions that follow make it a little bit more complicated than expected. Dodo isn't allowed to eat anything for 7 days straight. If she does eat something, she might die. It's pretty straightforward. Let's see if the mother can pull her through these days. Unfortunately, she doesn't seem to make sure if drinking water would count as food, as this is pretty important to know. Also, you can usually feed someone with prepped liquid using IV means, right? Intravenous. While this would likely not halt the sensation of hunger creeping up, it would at least nourish the child and keep it healthy. And someone susceptible to supernatural curses should remain in the best possible health, if you ask me. I would also ask about any side effects of the ritual, just like with any other treatment, so that we can tell if the process is working or not. Now, we cut to 3 days into the fasting and everything seems to be going okay, at least up until now. On day 3, Ronan starts to panic because of a fever Dodo caught. She brings her to a doctor but can't get a treatment as her stomach is empty and all medications possible would require her to eat something beforehand. She therefore caves in, eats something herself, bad team spirit, and eventually even worse, buys some pineapple for her daughter. Let's see what the consequences of that will be, but first we have to briefly cut to Ming, who plays a crucial part in this final arc. Ming is meanwhile using software to try and repair the cursed camera footage. Apparently the specific part of the file with the interior of the tunnel is damaged. But if that is true and it can't be seen, how did Ronan get cursed in the first place? I mean, this would mean that just being around the camera and its footage brings misfortune, right? Well, now regardless of that though, as he works on the file, he feels increasingly unwell and even loses a tooth, a common theme throughout this film. He next attempts to study the ancient religions for clues. He learns that their hand gesture is an inverse tantric Buddhism symbol for collecting blessings. He therefore sees it as a meaning to spread blessings, which is super weird, because if misfortunes are happening all around you and you suspect a curse to be the culprit, and all you find is an inverted symbol signifying blessings, wouldn't that inversion logically mean inverted blessings? Like, you know, the opposite of being blessed, i.e. cursed? Seems pretty logical to me, my friends. Now, after studying their runic language, he tracks down one of the few monks still alive, able to translate it. He flies out to meet the men and leaves a video message claiming he will be forwarding all of his findings to Ronan if he doesn't make it back. He was also able to repair the camera footage, but refuses to send it for safety reasons. I guess that's a good decision. After apologizing for not originally trusting Ronan and thanking Dudu for making him happy, he starts staring at the ceiling like many other characters throughout this film, repeats his own name before repeatedly slamming his face on the desk until it's lights out, forever. Now Ronan, after watching his video and after witnessing the death, is sent dozens of attachments of Ming's computer containing the repair tunnel video file he wouldn't send. She checks on Dudu, who isn't doing well at this point, who has developed some sort of flesh-eating bacteria that is creating holes in her skin. It's pretty nasty, so the pineapple wasn't that good of an idea, huh? But the nightmare doesn't stop here. She tries to help her child vomit the food up again, that hopefully reverses what's ever happening, but instead of the pineapples, a bunch of caterpillars come out. Understandably freaked out by this, she looks for the exorcist once again. But the priest is dead. His wife is there, now also suffering the same fate as Dodo. The two try to escape, but the door is shut before they can make it out. As her flashlight begins to flicker, the woman teleports around the room, goes for a jump scare, and then keeling over. Dudu is now floating at the ceiling before dropping to the ground hard. Now, let's do a short rewind here to review Dudu's treatment, because there were some things that were traveling to the mountain village again was a decent idea to break the curse, right? We can't fault them for giving up on the idea after barely escaping the multitude of paranormal events they experienced with this attempt. So that's a point we will have to concede to the curse. The Exorcist plan, however, is great and appeared to be working. We just needed to actually stick to it. Of course, if she had, the movie would be over. If Ronan had just let her daughter suffer through the hunger pains for a week, she wouldn't have to worry about immediate death, right? And wouldn't have caused the deaths of those exorcists. Besides, all Dudu had at the time was a fever, which not only could have been an expected side effect from the ritual, but it's also a natural bodily response that doesn't need treatment unless it's very severe. I know she's a concerned mother, but that doesn't excuse throwing common sense to the wayside. Aiding occurs in the meantime to drill holes into your child's body, while happy little caterpillars are finding a new home. So now the movie finally comes full circle as we see Ronan explaining why she made this tape in the first place. She took Dudu to the hospital where they put the child in intensive care. A doctor claims that she is malnourished and dehydrated, which seems a little extreme but would prove that water wasn't allowed during those 7 days either. This would make those 7 days pretty dangerous, but then again, it's probably a fair thing to endure when fighting a supernatural deity. While in the waiting room, Ronan decides to watch a tunnel tape. Maybe out of boredom, maybe out of curiosity, or perhaps to search for answers with nothing left to lose. In any case, she hits play for all of us finally to watch. Yuan and Dom crawl through the entrance until they get to areas big enough for them to stand in. They continue going deeper until they find the source of the sounds they had been hearing. It's a statue of the Mother Buddha with several more statue arms suspended around it in various poses, and its face is covered in a cloth. Dom, the smart guy that he is, decides to unveil it, and once he does, well, it triggers several hands to come from the walls and reach for them. They try to escape while the mirrors around them begin to crash and the hands get eerily close. Yuan wakes up a few moments later, scared and confused. He calls out for Dom, eventually seeing him slamming his face into a wall before attempting a jump scare. While watching this, the least observant hospital staff in the world, as well as the Mother of the Year, miss seeing Dudu casually stroll out of the place while holding an invisible hand. Let's go. She travels to an unconscious half-naked girl covered in runes. Don't know how or why she's there, or how Dudu returns to the hospital later, but I guess we don't need to know. It just happens. Ronan now has a plan though, and goes to the hospital room of that rune girl after she arrives. It's the same girl from the village who was missing an ear, and now thanks to Ronan here, is about to be missing another ear. We then cut to Ronan at the Forbidden Tunnel. I guess the deity this time let her in for a visit. She has covered herself with the runic markings and enters the tunnel system. She leaves offerings, smashes mirrors, and spins the statues around, and witnesses that she seems to be suffering from the same flesh-eating bacteria infestation like her daughter had before. She takes the girl's ear she removed and places it on the altar before bowing. Next, she asks the viewers one final time to repeat the incantation with her. However, she reveals that she has been lying to us the entire video. The incantation is not a blessing, but a curse of sharing. Along with the symbol, it allows several people to suffer Mother Buddha's curse together. The more people suffering, the more diluted it becomes, and the less total suffering each individual has to bear. So, she was at least being honest about this video helping her daughter. It just does so by also cursing any viewers who went along with the incantation, I guess. Hope you weren't repeating this at home, my friends. We also learned that the Mother Buddha's face is the heart of the curse, which is why they keep it covered. So to spread the curse to as many people as possible, Ronan uncovers the face live on camera. Despite spreading the influence of the deity and regardless of wearing a blindfold herself, she is quickly overcome by the curse's influence and unalives herself via face smashing, like everyone before her. Well, I guess many people will be cursed now, and we don't even get to know for sure if this helped her daughter. Was there anything better we could have done? Well, let's have a final look. Getting people to watch the tape in order to dilute the curse is a pretty solid idea, not gonna lie. The first one I would share this tape with would be my old high school teacher. That's right, you failed the wrong person, my friend. But in all seriousness, fighting a super deity trying to screw you in every way imaginable is not that easy, is it? Diluting the curse is a cool idea. However, Ronan died in the end as well, meaning it didn't work out as well as it could have, right? I would have tried it with a drone first. Would be tricky to steer it through the cave, but if grown people can make it through, perhaps a drone could sneak in as well. That way we could catch a live stream while still being in a safe distance. The only difficulty here would be figuring out how to unveil the statue's head and how to do that without looking straight at it. Well, for that, you could trick people into steering the drones for you. Say you create a fake tournament, have a bunch of people gather with their drones, and have each of them go after the unveiling of the statue. Not only would this cut you out of danger, but it would also A. spread the curse to many people at once, B. allow you to take a break and enjoy some vacation while this whole thing goes down, and C. well, there is no C, but you get the point. Work smart, guys, not hard. That's the way to go. Anyway, there were some really obvious choices the characters could have made, but then we wouldn't have this video, right? Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this one. We certainly did. Catch you again next week, and until then, you take care. Binge another one. Peace out.